Welcome to the Newcastle fan channel, the fan channel which talks everything Newcastle United. I've got a bit of conjunctivitis, so forgive me. I'm going to talk about Man City Newcastle. I think generally I wasn't that disappointed with the players. I personally don't, I've always said this, I don't have an issue with the players who play for us now. I don't think there is that much quality in the squad. I've said before, in terms of who I think is quality, Darlow, Dubravka. I think as well probably St Maxim and Callum Wilson. The rest of the squad I think is a much of a muchness. They're lower Premier League players / top Championship players. So to go to Man City where they dominate the ball, we don't like possession. We don't like. Steve Bruce doesn't really have a plan for us how we're going to score. Then I didn't expect much. I think last year we got trounced 5-0. You know, I've been to the Etihad a few times. I've seen 3 Aguero hat-tricks, so I know how bad it can be. So losing 2-0 is not the worst thing. I think, did we get a reaction after the Brentford game? I think they tried hard, and I think in the Brentford game they were really lacking and there was no real plan. And I think this game they tried hard, but it could have been many, many more, let's be honest. It's very unlikely we would have got something. This isn't the thing that we have to think of as well, is this City team is not the City team of 2 years ago. They dawdle in possession, they are not as cutting edge, and then not as cutthroat. And you've got to remember, Aguero wasn't playing. So relatively, yeah, it's a disappointing result. I think the players tried hard. We didn't expect much, but it is frustrating. No, Bruce out. Everybody is saying, Steve Bruce, time to go. I think, for me, I would have, if given our current position, I would also be tempted to be Bruce out. However, it really depends who they have lined up to replace him. So if, for instance, in my opinion, they went and got Rafa back, which is never going to happen, I would be like, okay, that's fine. If, however, they let Steve Bruce go and then they find there's no one really of any availability, then I would be very wary. I mean, people keep saying Eddie Howe, that he did a great job at Bournemouth, and I agree. However, the one thing with Eddie Howe is how long would it take to get his philosophy on board, and would it basically, I mean, he's just been relegated, so we need to be very wary that if we become too open too quickly, then we may go down. And if he doesn't have the players at the moment, I don't think we have the attacking players to really create anything, because we don't have players who retain the ball well enough. We don't have someone who can just keep the ball ticking constantly. We have players like Shelvey who can hit a long ball and everything, and he was capable of keeping the ball ticking before. I remember, I think it was the 2017-18 season, he was fantastic in terms of doing that. He had great games against Man U, Chelsea, Arsenal. But for me, like, I would just be very wary. I think it really depends who they have lined up. If they can't get anyone lined up, then we might just have to stick with Steve Bruce for now, because I really worry about changes. In my opinion, when we went down in 2009, that squad, if it had continuity all the way through the season, I think it probably would have stayed up. I think the fact that we had Keegan, then he resigned after 3 games, then we had Kinnear, and then obviously he got unwell. Obviously Kinnear was a terrible choice. And then we had Shearer. I think that lack of continuity really affected the players, and it does worry me. I still think there's 3 worse teams than us. So Burnley, West Brom, Fulham, and Sheffield United, I still think are worse than us. However, West Brom with Sam Allardyce is renowned for, when it comes to the January transfer window, going and getting someone to sort his team out. I remember with Sunderland, he made 3 signings and they just flew and stayed up, and we went down instead. Back in, was it 2016 when we went down? So we need to be aware of that. I also feel that probably Steve Bruce is just long term, he's not the option. He's not gonna. At the moment, we are a lower, so we're probably at the moment ranging between 13th and 17th in the Premier League, if we're honest. Now, I think fans wouldn't mind being in those positions if we were creating chances, we looked good on the eye, there was some nice passing, some nice movement, we were supporting, people talk about the Rafa era, and I say that the Rafa era, yeah, there was a lot of dull football, but towards the end, when we had Almiron, Perez, and Rondon, we were nice to watch, and I think fans miss that. And I think if we had Almiron, St Maxim, and Wilson, we could play some nice football, but we need someone who's going to stamp his authority on it. I think the centre mids has been a huge issue for us, really, because we're kind of treating Sean Longstaff, playing him regularly like it's the Sean Longstaff for that half a season before he got injured. He's not the same player. He's really gone backwards. He's lost confidence. He's not scoring goals. He's not shooting. I don't think he's getting the box. He's giving the ball away too easily. Hayden has been a warrior for me. He has been fantastic. And he's someone who I think would like some help. And I think he hasn't had it. Shelby, for whatever reason, has not done well under Bruce. I was amazed that he was in the top 6 nominations for Newcastle Player of the Year, because compared to some of his form before, is a real change. Matty Longstaff, again, he's a busy player, he tries hard, but he's not going to impose himself in a centre mid. Like, we're playing Liverpool. I know they drew today, but can you imagine Matty Longstaff against Wijnaldum, Fabinho, Keita, even Curtis Jones? He doesn't travel with the ball. We really needed to strengthen that area. I think as well, left back has become an issue because Jamal Lewis has lost his confidence. I personally think Newcastle scouted the wrong fullback. I think whenever I watched Norwich last year, I always thought Max Aarons, what a player, that's the one. And Jamal Lewis, I thought, oh, he's okay. Like, I thought, oh, he's decent. To pay £15 million for him, it's just crazy money. Like, I know Liverpool wanted him as a backup left back, but that doesn't mean you go and sign him. And if you're asking me, between him, Richie, Dummett, and when we had Danny Rose back then, they're all pretty similar. Not very good, to be honest. Yedlin, his form has gone off since Rafa left. I feel like he's a completely different player. Before, yeah, he used to be defensively susceptible, but he used to be good going forward. Now he's not even good going forward, and it's really frustrating. So it's a chaos, it's a mess. And I think with Steve Bruce, he's been in this situation before, and I think he kind of knows that he's probably not going to turn the fans round, because he's lost a bit of hope. He doesn't have a real plan. And, especially, I remember last year we there was a lot of pressure on him after we lost Leicester 5-0, and then we went to Spurs and won 1-0, but we were not very good. And that game was a crazy game, and we were so lucky to beat Spurs. And he talked about it like he had this great game plan and he transformed the team when he hadn't really. And he keeps talking about these games where he's like, oh, well, we beat Man U at home last year. Again, not a great game. It's not a game we've dominated. It worries me that he doesn't have an idea of what he wants us to achieve. And I think, for me, I'm worried about the instability it could cause. But if we could get someone better, then it would be, attractive football is nice and so forth, but it takes time to implement. And I just worry if we went and got someone now, but I also worry if we carry on with Steve Bruce. It is kind of crazy. I'm also concerned about Joe Linton. I'm going to say this. I just do not think he's good enough for the Premier League. He has the occasional good games. He does the occasional assist, but he's not a threat. Have you ever seen when Joe Linton is through on goal, felt confident that he's good? He doesn't even shoot the ball properly. The way he strikes the ball is that of someone who doesn't look like. And I do not understand why he's been persistent. Give me Dwight Gale any day of the week. People say, oh, Gale doesn't contribute. Gale scores goals. If he gets a chance, he's more likely to score than Joe Linton, who we're just playing because we paid this ridiculous amount of money. Like, we should look at Chelsea. Chelsea have realised that Kepa is crap and he's not a good goalkeeper. They have accepted we paid 75 million on someone who's not very good. And what did they do? They said, fine, let's go get someone else. And they went and got someone better. We need to accept that Joe Linton, put him on the bench. Do not start him. He is not very good. We can keep saying, oh, he just needs time. He's had time. He was not even prolific in Germany. It's not like somewhat like Timo Werner, who scored loads and loads of goals in Germany. Or someone who's come in with like a great pedigree. He wasn't that great. His record for Hoffenheim wasn't that good. I still think that the Hoffenheim owner must laugh his head off at Newcastle United. We paid £40 million for someone no one else wanted. It just boggles my mind, honestly. If you're asking me now, like, the things Steve Bruce needs to do to kind of rebuild the squad, he needs to go back to 4-3-3. He needs to pack that midfield and he needs to get St. Maxim when he comes back from COVID and Almiron working with them and not being behind the ball constantly. We need to get them into attacking positions. That is the biggest issue. We've got Callum Wilson now. He's a good forward. He's not perfect, but he's very good. If we can get Almiron and St. Maxim, and that's what Steve Bruce needs to work on, because at the moment I do not understand the tactics. I do not understand anything. If you're asking me who would I go and get as his replacement, it's really tough. I mean, I think there's lots of good managers around, but yeah, it would be tough. Like, if we want someone more attractive to watch, someone like Roberto Martinez, but no one is going to come under Ashley. And this failed takeover, just drove me insane. But yeah, I think if we're honest, we need to live with the fact that Steve Bruce is going to be around for a lot. Probably going to lose to Liverpool, let's be honest. Hopefully we can keep the score down. And then we go into the Arsenal FA Cup game again, not much hope. It's a very bleak situation. I would just wonder, who would you guys like to see as Steve Bruce's replacement? Because I think we probably do need one. I just worry about that instability that could happen, and it happened in 2009. Let me know your thoughts. Hit the subscribe button. Hope you liked my video.